What's something that makes a fighting game character iconic? For many, it's their fighting style, some say it's their powers, or it's their backstory. For many, it's their design. Today, we're kicking off a new ranking series on this channel, one that's been requested for quite some time, All Costumes Ranked. We'll be starting off with the poster boy of Mortal Kombat, Scorpion, and we'll be ranking all of his costumes from the worst to the best.
Fight!
Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. My name is Nick, and welcome to, or welcome back to the channel. If you haven't done so, consider clicking the subscribe button for more fun rankings and more Mortal content. Today, we're starting all costumes ranked and determining which design is the best. Now, there's a reason why it took me so long to get this video out. I really didn't know what rules to make of this series. But to make this much easier and to explain as best as I can, here we go. Here will be the rules for the entire All Costumes Ranked series. Rule number 1, costume appearances. Since MK9, we've seen reappearances of classic costumes as DLC skins. To simplify it and not rate the graphical difference between one to another, legacy skins will be lumped into one entry. This will mean that the MK1 design and the MK1 skin in Mortal Kombat 9 will be one entry. Where remade finishers were ranked separately, that won't be the case here. Rule number 2, we're going to be sticking with the games and console releases only. I will only be sticking with the game releases, so no movie adaptations or MK Legacy costumes will be on here. I would like to do something regarding the other media sometime soon. Rule number 3, no gear pieces. I won't be factoring gear pieces into the costume ranking. If I were to rank each set, then I probably would be here longer than watching the entire Godfather trilogy in one session. And rule number 4, Mortal Kombat 11's customization system. Probably the biggest challenge when considering this series. Since MK11 sold the idea of customizable characters as a main selling point, it made for everyone's character to be unique. And this is what actually stumped me for a while. I actually asked the Whack Pack this a month ago. After listening to your feedback, my close friends, and my judgment, I will only be judging the base designs per set, meaning no alternate colors will be considered. Of the 40 plus skins per character, only the first variant of a skin will be included. The exceptions will be special DLC costumes that aren't referenced elsewhere within the series, such as the Halloween and movie skin packs. However, if the DLC is a classic or a repeat, it will not be included. All of these skins will be ranked based on their iconic design, how well it fits the tone of the game, and the art style of the game. Also, these rankings are also just for fun and are my opinion, so let's be kind in the comment section and don't throw any kunais at me if I rank one of your favorite skins lower on this list. We are allowed to disagree, and I'd like to know your rankings too. Okay, with the rules established, get over here for our first episode of All Costumes Ranked. So, which Scorpion design is the worst of all 26? Okay, is really anyone surprised by this one? And might I ask, whose idea was this? Taking the last spot of all Scorpion costumes will be his infrared skin from Mortal Kombat X. For those who don't know, this is a reference to Predator, specifically paying tribute to the heat vision scenes in the movie, and also this little frame too. But why would we want this eyesore as a skin? No joke, this literally hurt my eyes and I had to stop playing for a few moments when capturing footage of this skin. Less than 10 seconds of looking at this and your eyes are probably gonna burn. This skin was so hated for its effect on players' eyes, as the skin is commonly banned in tournament play. From eyesores to being banned, this deserves the bottom spot. Now, I know that this is a cool concept in general, but just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should do it. To quote a line from the movie that inspired this skin,
You're one ugly
jumping into the title that introduced alternate skins with Mortal Kombat 4. Sadly, Scorpion's first alternate costume is near the bottom of our list with the unmasked variant. This one just gets a lot wrong with the concept and execution phase. First, why is Scorpion now gray? especially in the era where characters were defined by their color palettes. Second, why is Scorpion's head exposed? The classic games has Scorpion hide his face until the skull head would scare the opponent so he could burn them. So why make his true head exposed? It's like if Michael Myers was chasing you without a mask, it's just so off. Thankfully, the team never brought this back in any remade or reimagined form. Let's jump back into MKX for our next costume from this game, the Cold War skin. Of the skins we've covered so far, this one is just one big missed opportunity. The arms, for me, feel extremely bland and feel like it needs more than just some small chains. Also, side note, why are his arms so damn beefy? Maybe some wraps on the biceps or gloves to make it feel more complete, or even some sleeves of some sort. The vest doesn't really scream Cold War to me, and the mask just seems really weird, as some players have called it more bug-like than anything. Imagine how cool it would have been if Scorpion was rocking some gas mask instead, almost something similar to Sub-Zero's Tundra skin. Overall, this one just feels incomplete and could have used some more flair and pizzazz. Jumping into the latest installment with the most customization options, Mortal Kombat 11. Of all of the Scorpion variant sets, NetherRealm Spectre is my least favorite. This one does a rework of the OG Ninja variant, but adds some flame decals to it, really making it the forefront of the design, really reminding me of a biker jacket. For a vengeance and honor-bound fighter, this really doesn't fit Scorpion well, and it's kind of obnoxious to look at. If anything, this would fit much better for someone like Takeda, who's at least a teen and at least more akin to his Combat Kid friends. Of all of the MK11 skins, this Spectre skin is one I never apply to any of my sets. Now I know that there are some fans of this skin, but this just isn't for me, so I'm sorry if I'm bashing on a favorite of yours. Alright, the first few costumes on this list are what I consider to be skins I really don't like at all, and some I would never select when playing Scorpion. The next set of costumes I would consider just okay, underwhelming, or needed some changes to be better. With that out of the way, let's move on to number 22. We've reached our first 3D era costume with Mortal Kombat Deception. Sadly, of the PS2 era outfits, I found Scorpion's base design to be pretty weak in this one. For a ninja, it feels a bit too bulky for me. I mean, look at the giant shoulder pads. Those look more like copies of Kratos' Golden Fleece. Speaking of which, check this video out here. Of his masks, it feels just a bit strange and the hood looks off. It's also one of his only masks that didn't return for Mortal Kombat 11's customization. Though the story made him an Elder God champion, he is really decked out in godlike armor, which really takes away from his ninjutsu and assassin origins. For many of the pluses and positives this game has, his design is one of the negatives for me. Speaking of too bulky, we're moving on to our first skin from the now 11-year-old classic, Mortal Kombat 9. Many critics have praised this game for its wonderful story, fighting, and fatalities. The negatives, for some, came from the character redesigns and alternate costumes. Case in point, Scorpion's alternate costume. Similar to the last entry, this one seems a bit too armored and over-designed for my liking. His mask is a scorpion, his gauntlets are screaming skulls, and the body armor is looking so big and metallic, more knight-like than anything. Really reminds me of the bulky Scorpion from Mortal Kombat 2021. If they managed to dial back on some of the armor and simplify the mask, then this one could have ranked much higher on this list. Not a bad one, but just could have used a bit of a rework. We're continuing on to the over-designed trend and moving on to Mortal Kombat X. Taking the 20th spot is the Injustice costume. In terms of Injustice, which was designed by comic book artist Jim Lee, this one actually looks pretty good in concept art and in the Injustice game. However, when you port this over into MKX, along with the lacking color scheme, this really doesn't translate that well. With the faded color, he looks more brown than gold, and instead of removing his swords, they just fuse them onto his shoulders, which make it look even bulkier. Not sure why they didn't replace the swords or make it a bit more yellow, but it would have saved the skin a bit. As I mentioned earlier, the skin looks both great in the game it originated in, but in MKX, this one is just well, injustice to fans. Breaking into our first skin from Deadly Alliance and our second adaptation of the playable Inferno Scorpion. Of the two playable versions of the Inferno skins, I prefer this one, but that doesn't mean I think it's great. It does at least borrow some similar traits to the base design from this game, minus the shoulder pads. The biggest changes are the burning skull and the chain around the neck. I still think Inferno Scorpion, outside of his toasty fatality or even the fire breather attacks in MK11, still looks off and weird. Though it's not great, it's an okay skin. Number 18, and I already feel like I'm dropping an unpopular opinion, and that's with his base design. First, let's talk the positives. I really like the mask of this skin. It's a unique design that breaks away from either the Scorpion or the Skull designs from previous and future designs. Besides that, there's a lot to pull apart like pull and peel Twizzlers. For some reason, Scorpion is decked out with so many belts. What is he, a Final Fantasy or BlazBlue character? It just feels like they could have done something different than belts to make him stand out. Of the modern Scorpion base designs, this one feels the least hellish. Now sure, the variations were meant to highlight those points, but judging this alone, this really doesn't leave any lasting impacts to make a good impression, besides the solid mask design. If it managed to look more like the MKX promotion design for the comics or even the concept art pieces, with the Sherpa line and all of that, it would have been much better and higher on this list. This Scorpion just lacks that sting. Jumping into the arcade era another time by looking at his Mortal Kombat 3 design. Of the ninja base designs, I put this one the lowest. For some reason, this one really feels the most strange to me. For starters, the mask feels way too big for his face, and I think there are way too many yellow accents. As the Uncommon Oddity stated in their Scorpion design ranking, which you should check out up here, it feels a bit too superhero-y, and I agree. If it dialed back even the butt highlights and made it more of a darker yellow than being coated like highlighter yellow, it would have been placed a lot higher, and I think it would have been a much better skin. Headed into the Sweet 16 spot with Scorpion's base costume from Deadly Alliance. This one is fairly similar to the Inferno skin, minus the burning head. This one includes a shoulder pad, quad pads, the sword, and gauntlets. Even with the big jump to new hardware, it still feels like it's missing something. For one, I think it could have used some accent to his unpadded shoulder, and I think the quad pads could have been a bit smaller. Besides those minor issues, this one is pretty alright. It's a safe reimagining for a new era. Crossing off another MK11 variant with the red flag costumes. This one borrows the base concept of his base design, but removes some elements. The biggest changes are removing the shoulder pads and changing his chest cloth pattern. Personally, I find the pattern of the cloth to be a bit distracting, and the shoulder pads being omittive could have been better if they were replaced with something else. I personally would have liked to see some sleeves or wraps around his arms to make up for the missing shoulder pads. This is literally a lesser version of the base design, nothing too special about it, but it is somewhat better than some of his previous skins. Guess there aren't any real red flags that make it rank any lower. Crossing into the 14th spot with Mortal Kombat 9. Our last skin we'll be looking at from this title is his base design. At first glance, this feels like a nice remake of his MK1 classic skin, but there are some additions that help really make it stand out. Maybe a bit too much. Scorpion really took the Scorpion part quite a bit too seriously. His mask, Scorpion. His shoulder pads, Scorpions. Swords, Scorpion tails. Boots, Scorpion. Rock you like a hurricane, Scorpions. Oh, I got sidetracked. This really goes a bit too hard with the Scorpion element on closer inspection, but I do like the Under Armor part of this skin. I've always loved that element. I also really like the cloth that goes over his torso. It's just a nice and simple design. If there's anything left I have to say about this skin, Scorpion. Entering the Cursed 13 is the now not cursed Scorpion, or should I say, Hanzo Hasashi. This is the second Mortal Kombat title with the Scorpion's human variant, and I think this one's pretty good looking. Though it's just the base design minus the hood and the mask, there are some updates to the head that look nice. First off, I really like the traditional Japanese bun ponytail, sometimes called an odango. It's also cool to see his eyes back to normal human form too. And his beard is a nice touch along with the aging too, showing how long he's just been kicking ass. It's a good way to show off Scorpion's human side. What puts this one lower is that it really doesn't update much from the original skins it's based off of, but I think it's still a good one. We are moving on to our first collector's edition skin in this ranking with Scorpion's Gold Demon skin. For how rare this skin is to come across, no kidding, I've only seen one person rock this skin during my 2 years of playing Kombat League, this one feels a bit underwhelming as a collector's edition skin. It's just a mix of Scorpion's base costume hood and borrows elements from the OG Ninja skin variant. Though it borrows from two good designs, I feel the team could have done something else to make it unique. Maybe a reimagined Inferno Scorpion or Lava Veins or something like that. Maybe take a note from the Savini skin from Friday the 13th the game or even the Evil Dead game. Though the skin looks pretty good, it could have been loads better. Oh, and sorry I didn't have gameplay of the Gold Demon skin on hand, I'm a little too poor to get this one. Now before we continue, this part of the list was extremely challenging to put together. Like some of the finisher rankings I've done in the past, one or two factors are what really place an entry higher or lower on this list. Another reminder that if there's a costume you like that's ranked low, doesn't mean I don't like it. I'll be sure to explain why I put one skin over the other, or explain as best as I can. With that little PSA out of the way, let's keep going. Looking at our second to last Mortal Kombat X skin with Hanzo Hasashi, the first version of this skin. Of the two versions of this costume, the MKX version kicks a lot of ass. Instead of reusing assets from her previous skin, this really builds from the ground up. Gone is the mask and other hellish features. He now resembles his time as a Shirai Ryu ninja, even looking more like himself from MK Legacy. For the first time, we see Scorpion with hair. I really dig the look too. On top of that, this costume truly looks like it was made by hand. Notice the wooden wrist guard and the spiked knuckles. Another great detail is that his lines are not only delivered differently without the filter, but some lines are just completely removed with Hanzo exclusive dialogue. Overall, this is an amazing skin and one I surprisingly use when playing MKX. Breaking into the top 10 with Scorpion's base design from Mortal Kombat 4. This skin takes a similar approach to the MK3 skin, but improves on it. Instead of going for the traditional cloth mask and the weird butt stripe, this removes the stripe and has the mask resemble that of a skull, something that Scorpion designs would retain in the future. It also adds a nice skull to the belt too, without feeling too overdone. Now the only big criticism I do have with this skin is the hood. I've never been a big fan of the weird little wings or bat ears on it. I really would have wanted something more like the Defenders of the Realm look or even the concept art for MK3. Rounded hood included, minus the snake-like voice. For how much I don't like the Scorpion finishers inside this title, this costume at least nails it and makes up for it. Wrapping up all of Mortal Kombat X's skins with the Gold Scorpion design. This skin was bundled with the Collector's Edition for Mortal Kombat X, which also included a statue of this Scorpion designed by Course. To be honest, this is one of my favorite skins in all of Mortal Kombat X. Since the MKX's color scheme is very faded and doesn't have a lot of color pops, this really stands out with the glowing gold and the comic book style frame. To me, this also reminds me of Scorpion's revenge design from the animated movie. Although I am not the biggest fan of MKX's costumes, this one is truly a treat, and I was super happy once they made it a skin free for everyone once MK11 released. If I have any last minute things to say, this skin is just gold for the course. Time to go where it all started with Mortal Kombat 1. I think all the characters in this game have some truly iconic designs for the time and even today. Personally, the ninjas are some of the best looking in the title. Scorpion's yellow really pops against every background and is what makes them stand out against the roster. There's really nothing to complain about, it's just a good design. This costume would also be celebrated in MK's anniversary title in 2011 as an awesome pre-order bonus. This one is just a celebrated classic. It's been forever since we've talked about this title, but it won't be the last time we'll be revisiting Mortal Kombat vs. DC on this channel. Another underrated costume from this game is his base design. Say what you want about this game, but I think Scorpion's design is very solid. It feels a lot like a modernized Mortal Kombat 2 costume with some modifications. The mask looks really nice and the shoulder pads are a nice touch. I actually would have liked this to be his primary skin for Mortal Kombat 9, which, funny enough, in the announcement trailer for that game, he was rocking this design. I feel this one isn't talked about as much and it deserves more praise. It's one of the few great things in this misfire of a title. Jumping into the 6th spot with another Mortal Kombat 11 variant, this one being the OG ninja costumes. This costume was worn by the past version of Scorpion in Mortal Kombat 11's story. As a reimagining, I really dig it. It retains the classic look and, like the DC skin, adds some well-needed elements to make it pop for this era. Of the classics reimagined, it's up there as one of the better versions and up there for one of the best Scorpion skins. What puts this one back a bit is that I feel like it's missing an element to make it pop a bit more. Which, speaking of, we are cracking into the top 5 with the Soul Control variant costumes. At first glance, this one almost looks like the previous entry, OG Ninja, but on further inspection, there are a few changes. This one literally adds some more flair and pizzazz I had been asking for, those being the silver chevrons on the vest. It really adds a nice pop to it. Along with that, the team altered the shoulder pads and the gauntlets for the design too. The color pop, making yellow, black, silver a great trio of colors. This costume just adds the right amount of additions and alterations to make it more impactful on the eyes. It's just good for the soul. Time to wrap up the mainline PS2 Mortal Kombat titles by looking at his alternate skin from Deception. This costume is essentially a fusion dance of the MK3 and 4 costumes, but done right. As I mentioned when talking about his MK4 skin, where my biggest complaint was the hood, this costume fixes that while making some nice modern updates. The patches on the vest have more of a shine like light armor, the mask retains the MK4 skull look, and the belt retained the same. I really don't have anything to complain or criticize about with this one. The skin just took the best of 2 costumes and made it better. There's a reason why the team went with this as his primary costume in Armageddon over his base design in Deception. This one's just loads better, and way to nail it, team. Jumping into the top 3 with Mortal Kombat 2's base design. Of the arcade era costumes, I always thought this one was the best. This one really advances the look from MK Classic by adding some shin pads, giving the nice costume a woven look that really pops for 1993, and the mask looks great too. Even when people would do some parody or would reference Scorpion, this one is probably the one that makes an appearance a majority of the time. It was also remade in MK11 and still looks awesome in there as well. Of the classic looks, it's the most iconic, and I know many would consider this to be his best costume, but we've got 2 more to talk about. Our runner-up comes from the reimagining of Mortal Kombat 2, Shaolin Monks. Now this is how you reimagine a classic skin. This one just takes the best parts of MK2 and adds onto it without making it feel over-designed. The loincloth being reversed, now a yellow accent to a black primary, just looks awesome. The studded gauntlets over the base guards are an awesome touch, and even the little touch of adding a strap on his bicep is nice too. To be honest, I think this skin is really underrated and doesn't get the love and attention it deserves. If Shaolin Monks gets a remake sometime soon, then I can't wait to see how this would look. This reimagining is something special and greatly deserves the silver medal of all Scorpion's costumes. Coming in at number 1 is the base design from Mortal Kombat 11. You know, I see an odd trend here. First, Scorpion's top fatality came from Mortal Kombat 11. Now his top costume also comes from MK11. I'm not saying it's the best because it's the most recent, I just think it does the best job of redesigning Scorpion for the modern era and just being the best costume. For one, I love how they have him with the traditional hood instead of moving away from the classic ninja look. Unlike the MK Deception skin, his armor is light and the shoulder pads aren't massive. It doesn't make him look too bulky. I also love how it incorporates the classic colors along with a new accent. Yellow, black, red, and silver look so good together. Since we're judging this off the base design, the skull mask is at its best, and the foggy eyes look nice too. Where many of the modern Scorpion skins try to just readapt the classic with mixed results, this actually evolves the design with amazing results. He also looks like he evolved into the true Grandmaster of the Shirai Ryu he's trying to rebuild. It's just so amazing. And for that, his MK11 design is my favorite of all 26 Scorpion costumes. This gold demon just got the gold medal. And there's my ranking of all Scorpion's costumes throughout the entire series. We're not going to agree with this ranking, so I'd love to hear where you're coming from on these designs. Let's discuss more about these costumes down below in the comments. My list isn't the definitive list, it's just my opinion and I'd love to hear yours too. The list was extremely challenging to rank, by far the most difficult video I've ever worked on. So I hope you enjoyed it and I also hope the wait was worth it. This is a series I'd love to continue, and it would be a nice way to cover characters with limited appearances, but have drastic redesigns. So subscribe, drop a like, and share this with your friends to see more costume rankings. While we're at it, let's try to reach 1,000 likes. If we manage to do that, I'll take a nice little taste of extreme hot sauce. In case you didn't know, I can't do spice well, so this will be more fun for you than it will be for me. Following the trend of highly requested videos, come back next time to see another grouped ranking video. The ones being finished are going to feel the wrath and power of these three. It's one you're really not going to want to miss. Until then, thank you so much for checking out this long-awaited video. My name is Nick, and remember to smile and have an amazing day.